Hi, welcome to Cerebral Steve, and in today's video we will be servicing a Hornby Dublo Duchess model, which is, this one is the Duchess of Atholl, and so I've actually already stripped it down, so I'm just going to give it a good clean up with some electrical cleaner and some little cotton buds. We're just going to try and get all the muck out of it that we can, just by swishing lots of cleaner through it, because these things build up quite a lot of dirt over the years, and they work a lot better if they are clean. So what we're going to, we're just going to keep repeating this process. It's a bit tedious, but it's well worth the time. So we're just going to clean it all up as best that we can. Yeah, basically you can't squirt too much of stuff on it. It just basically evaporates once it's done its job. Just going to clean out the actual little inserts where the brushes go. Just squish them through with a bit of more cleaner, just to get all the muck out of it. So on this model we've got two bearings, so I'll be talking about that in a minute. Just using a cocktail stick just to sort of clean these things out a little bit. Yeah, so okay. So now I'm just going to start cleaning up the bottom of it as well. So yeah, I'm just going over all the valve gear with a cotton bud again, just to get all the grime off of them, make them a little bit shinier and nicer to look at. So just flipping it over again, you can see the collector shoes. Give those a little bit of a clean as well. So I'm using a track rubber now. I'm cleaning the wheels, just getting all the muck off the wheels and getting them nice and shiny looking. This is quite a sort of a long process. It takes a lot longer than it does in you actually see on the video. It's quite highly edited. So just keep going with that. And also because when you use track rubber it creates a lot of debris, and you just use a little bit of electrical cleaner just to swish that away. You don't really want that in the model, but it's very effective at removing grime from wheels like it can from track, without actually damaging them, more crucially. So yeah, just keep going with that. And what you're actually aiming for is you want to try and clean the bit which contacts the rail, the edge of the wheel and the top of the wheel as well, because it just makes the model look nicer if anything, and also makes it run a lot better as well. So yeah, it's just a question of getting all this cleaning done. So let's have a quick look at it again, just going over it again with this track rubber. A bit more squishing to get rid of all the bits that are probably inside the model. So also obviously do the same with the tender, clean the tender up as well, clean up the tender wheels because they're metal and the tender's made of tin plate, so yeah, you kind of it's part of the circuit in effect. It picks up current as well, so you want to make sure that is all clean. So the next thing to do is go around and basically replace all the lubrication that you've removed by cleaning it, but with clean oil, and just looking at a tiny drop of oil on each moving part, and just be thorough and go through the whole locomotive. Anything that's a bearing surface or moves, then a tiny bit of oil on it will make it run a lot more sweetly. So yeah, these little pens that carry this very light grade. It's a bit like sewing machine oil, I guess. That's probably as thick as you want it to be. So that will help the model move much more freely. So on to the next thing. The next thing is the bottom bearing. There's a bearing at the bottom of this casing where the armature fits into, and you need to get some basically some silicone grease or any kind of sort of like that style of grease in there, and just use a cocktail stick to get, and also put some on the gear as well in the room drive, and again that will make everything run much more sweetly. So what we've got to do now is start to reassemble. So the first thing to do probably is to refit the armature. So we've got to get the bottom of it into that bearing at the bottom and line up the top. And I just want to kind of see where the top bearing is by screwing it into the top before I add the locking nut. So I'm just doing a little test fit there. You can see the locking nut is on the table, and I have actually I am in the sort of process of fitting it without it. So I just want to see where it sits. So I'm just going to do that a minute. It's a little bit time consuming. So you just basically screw in the bearing holder. So again, it's got another little ball bearing inside of it, which is held in with some fresh grease so it doesn't fall out. And then you just adjust it and just feel how if it's working. And then you kind of take it all apart and repeat the process, but this time you slip the actual retaining nut over the top of the armature so that you can thread it onto the bearing housing from underneath. And it is quite a tricky thing to do, and I found a way of tightening it because I don't actually have a spanner that fits such a tiny nut in such a tiny space. You can see the nut is still actually on the table, but I will show you in a second. This is obviously edited. So yeah, so just sort of jumped ahead a little bit, I think. So the nut is still there. Right, I will actually. So I'm taking it apart, and like I said, you fit the nut over the top of the armature, and then slot it all back together again. And it is quite a tricky process. So this I've kind of done off camera. I'm just adjusting it now. Just more. So just adjust it so there's a tiny bit of play in it, up and down movement. And then you just get so what I need is a pair of tweezers, really, some nice long tweezers. Get those in there, and I just use a pair of pliers to tighten them onto the nuts because I can't actually physically get any other tool in there, so I just get those in there, and that's enough to actually turn the nuts, and I push it all the way through and tighten it from the other side. So I'm going to do in a second. Just with tighten it a little bit, and then just to really tighten it, just going to apply a bit of force on the front of those tweezers with some pliers, and then just twist it enough till it bites, not too much. So that armature is now safely in and adjusted. So what is next? Right, so we're going to just pop the springs back in, and the brushes. So the brush goes in first, followed by the spring, and then that little metal peg holds it all in place. So I'm just going to pop that back in like that, and that is all back together. So I'm just checking it all moves properly. So I'll just pop the magnet back in. The magnet has a red mark which lines up with another red mark on the chassis. Let's pop the pull pieces on as well. They slot in. They basically transmit the sort of the magnetic field to the armature from the magnet at the back. The thing is, whenever you take one of these magnets off and take it apart, it will lose its magnetism because the armature acts like a keeper. It keeps the magnetism in the magnet, because these are very old-fashioned magnets and not like the modern ones that will keep their magnetism. They will lose them if they're sort of split away from the locomotive. But luckily, we can do something about that. So I have this magnetizer, and I will be just popping that in that magnetizer in a minute off camera, and we end up with a working locomotive chassis, as you can see. You can't see the amps it's pulling, but they are very low. They're sort of like 0.3 to 0.5 amps. And you can see it can go quite slowly if you want it to, or very fast. You can spin the wheels, which I think is a nice effect, because often real locomotives pulling heavy loads, the wheels would spin as they were pulling away. So it's nice when models can do that as well. Sometimes they have traction tyres on them, which stops that from happening. I'm really not a fan of traction tyres. So now we've got the magnet magnetised. Just going to put the securing nut back in, screw and nut. So it's basically a bolt with two nuts on either end. So yeah, just going to screw that back up together. So just tighten that up. Just do it off camera a little bit. Right, it's all done. Get it back on the track. And I'll just check to see if it all still works properly. I'll pop the tender on as well, I think. Just make sure we're all good. And there we go, off it goes. So that all seems to be absolutely fine. So you can make it run quite slowly, which for a model that's probably 70 years old is quite incredible, really, I think. So I'm just going to stick it all back together. So we're just going to pop the body back on. So it's just secured with a nut on one side and bought in a washer. Pop the bogies back on as well. The rear bogie secures the drawbar for the tender. So I just need to pop that back in. Just put that back together. Yeah, I've just got an old dressing gown, so I don't want to scratch the body of the locomotive that I just spent ages cleaning. So the body's been just cleaned up with some soapy water and some polish. Right, so we've got it on the track again, and we're just going to see how it runs still. And that all seems to be going very nicely, actually. It runs beautifully, looks really good. Very happy with that. So I'll just leave you with these few shots of the locomotive moving, and I'll say goodbye. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.